Okay. Okay, dear friends, good evening to you all. Government First Aid College, Kavuru, Mangalore. This is our fourth national webinar organized by Department of Physical Education, Student Council, and IQAC. It gives me immense pleasure to hello. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome all of you. First of all, I welcome Dr. Vivian, Associate Professor, Department of Orthopedic for the Mullers Medical College, Mangalore. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
I welcome today's moderator, Dr. Ramchandra K, Physical Education Director, Government First Aid College, Vittal, Bantwal. Dr. Ramchandra did his MA, MPed, MPhil, and PhD. He is a qualified NIS coach in athletics. Dr. Ramchandra represented Mangalore University thrice in All India Inter-University Athletics, and more than 10 times he represented Karnataka State in athletics. Dr. Ramchandra is a qualified technical official and also a good announcer, qualified announcer, especially in athletics. So on behalf of our college, I welcome you, sir. I welcome today's convener, Professor Kuncharia, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce, is the Director of Student Council. Welcome you, sir. I welcome Professor Manoj Lewis, a coordinator of our IQAC coordinator for college. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I welcome all the participants for their participation. Welcome you all. And I welcome my special welcome to our Honorable Principal, Dr. Shivram P. Is the guiding spirit of our welcome, sir. Is the guiding spirit of our college, and he is the one who taken initiative to have this kind of webinar. So welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Pinto.
Welcome. I request Dr. Shivram, a principal of our college, to speak few words in this occasion. So welcome you, and I request our principal to speak.
Okay. Thank you, Pinto. Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Shivram, Principal of Government First Aid College, Kavur, Mangalore. I feel honored to welcome Dr. Vivian Richard de Almeida to the national level webinar on sports injuries. For good physical fitness and strength, sports is an integral part of our life, and information on sports injuries, prevention and treatment will be very beneficial to all our participants. My best wishes to Dr. John Pinto, Director of Physical Education and also the program organizer, Professor Kunjarian, convener of the program, and also the Students Welfare Officer, Professor Manoj Lewis, IQAC coordinator of our college, who have organized this webinar. Thank you, one and all, and my best wishes for the program. Thank you. Thank you, Pinto.
Thank you, Honorable Principal of the college, for your inspiring words. Now I request Dr. Ramchandra to formal welcome to our resource person, Dr. Vivian, or to moderator. Dr. Ramchandra. Dr. Ramchandra, unmute. Ramchandra, please unmute.
Sir, I am audible?
Yeah, you are audible. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. John Pinto, sir, for the opportunity. Good evening to all. A very warm welcome to all. It's a wonderful day, and I feel privileged to extend my warm welcome to all present here. And the beginning itself, I thank you for joining us for today's national webinar on sports injuries updates organized by Government First Grade College, Kavur, Mangalore. It's an honor and privilege to introduce today's webinar resource person, a renowned surgeon, Dr. Vivian Roshan D. Almeida, Associate Professor and Unit Head, Orthopedic Care Unit, Fadamulla Medical College Hospital, Mangalore. Ladies and gentlemen, the Dr. Vivian Roshan D. Almeida completed his MBBS in St. John Medical College, Bangalore, and MS Orthopedics in Fadamulla Medical College, Mangalore, with the 5th rank in Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Science, Bangalore. Dr. Vivian has specialized in arthroscopy, knee surgery, and sports medicine through fellowship under the guidance of doctors from world-renowned institute, namely fellowship in knee surgery at India University, fellowship in arthroscopy, Artho One Hospital, Coimbatore, in addition to MRCS from Royal College of Surgeons, England and Ireland. Dr. Vivian interest in sports medicine and knee surgery is also backed by his ability to know and gauge professional sports athletics, as he himself was an accomplished sportsman as a captain of the university football, table tennis and hockey teams. In addition to being an accomplished and renowned surgeon, Dr. Vivian serves as an associate professor at Fadamulla Medical College for undergraduate and postgraduate courses, where he is also the unit head in the orthopedics department. He has over 13 articles in indexed journals, also ex-joint secretary to the Kendra Orthopedic Association, lifetime member of the Indian Orthopedic Association and Karnataka Orthopedic Association and Kendra Orthopedic Society. Dr. Vivian has presided and conducted multiple camps and awareness drives in the rural areas of the region. Ladies and gentlemen, with this, a brief introduction of today's resource person. Once again, I welcome Dr. Vivian, sir, to this webinar. Sir, welcome you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
With this, before we get started, let me explain how we can talk to our during the webinar. I would like to give a hint to the participant. Dear participants, if you have any questions during the presentation, just write them to the chat box. We will look into that, and we will cover all the questions in the end of the presentations, and we will get the answers. With this, and also the e-certificate will be sent to the persons who will be filling the feedback form immediately after the webinar. So with this, now I request our today's resource person take over the session. Dr. Vivian, sir, please, sir.
Good evening. Am I audible?
Yeah. Yes.
So is it, are you viewing the PowerPoint presentation as well?
Yes, audible, sir.
The PowerPoint presentation is on as well?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. At the outset, I would like to offer my sincere gratitude to Dr. John Pinto, who has also been my mentor during my childhood. Sports has always been my passion. So, because of that, I ended up being a reasonably good sportsman as I was growing up, representing the district and the state level up to the All India Inter-University levels as well. But as destiny had a say, it was the medical professional which called me, and I ended up being a doctor. Now, even when I took up the medical profession, when I specialized, still the passion was deeply burning inside my heart to do something with regards to the field of sports, and that resulted in me taking up orthopedics as my specialty, and especially I specialized in sports injuries as well. Now, as you are all aware, India, our country, is home to around 1.5 billion people. But it is a very sad state that if you really look at the sporting achievements in the history of a young nation, it is pretty pathetic. There are very few Olympic medalists or world champions from our country. Now, what is the reason for this? There are modifiable and non-modifiable factors responsible for this. When we talk about non-modifiable factors, it is something that we cannot do anything about. Now, what do we mean by that? So basically, there are certain non-modifiable factors like genetics. For example, all of you are well aware of the legendary sprinter Usain Bolt. Now, this particular person had a combination of both stride and speed, which is very rarely seen in sports, in sprinters together. So that is something we cannot do anything about. Okay, but there are certain modifiable factors which we can work on. Now, what are these modifiable factors? Now, this is basically what is known as sports medicine. So what does it include? So it includes how our athletes train, how do they warm up, what is their workload, their mental conditioning, their physical conditioning, what do they eat, the nutrition, how much of calories do they expend every day. So all these things nowadays has gained a lot of importance and traction, and because of this, sports has become that much more professional. Now, if we look at our country, okay, we are aware that probably the only sport we are really doing good at, that is cricket. I mean, though the hardcore sports enthusiasts in India have a bad feeling about this, that the other sports are neglected, we do need to commend our Board of Cricket Control of India for the amount of professionalism that they have infused into cricket. And because of that, when we were growing up in the 90s, it was all about one genius called Sachin Tendulkar performing, India winning or losing. But now it's not like that. It is professional. If you look at our captain, he's fit. The entire team is fit. What do they eat? How do they train? Everything has been looked into and taken care of. And because of that, we have become world beaters, which we were never in the past. The same thing holds good to a certain extent in our badminton players as well. So keeping all this in mind, in a nutshell, I would just like to put forth in front of you, saying what are the common sports injuries and how can we prevent them, or what do we need to do when they occur, or what exactly needs to be done and addressed. So now, Sir John Pinto, sir, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, you're perfectly audible. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So I basically would like to classify sports injuries into injuries of 4 things. That is, first would be the bones, muscles, tendons, and ligaments. So I believe that I'm explaining it to a non-medical audience. So I would like to make it as simple as possible and not go into the technicalities of it. So bones, as we are aware of, there can be 2 things that can take place. First is what is known as a fracture, where there is a break in the bone, and second is what is known as a dislocation.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, they can also be injuries to muscles, tendons, as well as ligaments. So what I would like to do in my presentation is, I wouldn't like to be like it to be a one-sided presentation. So initially, I would like to give a didactic lecture, and after that, I would be open to take your questions. Now, coming to fractures, what do you mean by a fracture? So fracture basically involves a break in the bone. If you look at the picture at the right-hand bottom, you can basically see next to the arrow mark, that is an X-ray of a wrist joint where there is a break in the bone. Now, how do we, now say a young boy, say a 17, 18-year-old guy who is being trained under you falls on the sports field. Now, how do you, as a physical education teacher, be able to pick it up saying that, okay, it is a fracture or if it is a dislocation? That is my basic intention of this talk. So what you need to see first is if the person has got obviously pain, which I'm sure all of you are aware of, there would be gross swelling, deformity. Deformity means to say that the wrist or any other joint that is involved may be crooked. It would be extremely painful to touch and there would be a bony discontinuity. So there can be two fractures. Now, it is very important for you guys to understand that there are two types of fractures. Why is it so? Is because one is an emergency, the other is not an absolute emergency. So there can be an open fracture or there can be something known as a closed fracture. An open or a compound fracture, as I mentioned, is a surgical emergency. What do you mean by this? So what it exactly means is that your bone is broken and your skin is also open. That means your bone can be seen from the outside. Now, why am I mentioning this is you should not do, if something, God forbid, something like this happens to one of your wards or your trainees or your students, the first thing that you should not do is try to wash the wound, because what that does is whatever muck or dirt that is there on the surface may be driven deep into the wound, which may result in the worsening of the final outcome of the fracture once we do treat, operate, or whatever we do. So that is one thing that you shouldn't do. So probably what you can do is immediately close the wound, splint it, I'll come to that, and immediately rush him or her to the hospital. Now, what is the thing that you can do if some untoward incident like this takes place? So the first thing that you would do is obviously give that person some pain relief. So you would obviously want to splint or immobilize the limb. Now, that can be done in various forms using a folded paper along with a cloth, a foot ruler along with a cloth, or a pillow, a wooden plank. Nowadays, what I usually do recommend is, I wish that all the institutes do have something known as a ready-made Alkathane splint, which is easily available in a surgical shop, which is very simple. You just dip it in water, you support that particular limb, you wrap it with a cloth and rush him or her to the hospital. It is a pretty simple thing and a pretty humane thing to do as well. The next thing that you should do is elevate the limb. Obviously, if it is a closed fracture means the skin is not broken, only the bone is broken. You give ice packs and compression. And the most important thing is never massage the limb. Now, that is the usual thing that I've seen, that when a person usually falls and usually there's a swelling, the first thing that anybody next to them would do is vigorously or rigorously massage the limb. That is something that should never be done. So that is in a nutshell about the fractures. Now, once obviously you take the person to the hospital, then the orthopedic surgeon and the specialist would take over from there. Next, what I would like to talk to you about would be about shoulder dislocation. Now, what do you mean by a dislocation? Okay, so as you are aware, a joint is basically a connection between two bones. Okay, when one bone slips from the other, such a condition is known as a dislocation. Now, there are multiple joints, as you are aware, in the human body. Now, the joint that is most prone or most commonly dislocated is the shoulder joint. The reason being, it is a highly mobile and a very unstable joint. It is common in people who are into racket sports like tennis and badminton, or bowlers with overhead arm movement, including volleyball players. But anybody in a nutshell who falls down on an outstretched arm has got a preponderance to develop a dislocation of the shoulder. Okay, now the other thing that you need to understand is there is an entity known as a recurrent dislocation of the shoulder. And this is one orthopedic problem, which is an absolute surgical emergency. A person with a dislocation has to be rushed to the hospital. Now, on the right-hand side, on your screen, you can see how a shoulder dislocation actually looks like. So if you see the person's left arm, that is the normal shoulder, how it looks like. And on the right arm, you can see that something is wrong there. Okay, so the skin appears to have shrunken. That is because the joint has popped out of the socket. So that's the reason. So how do a patient usually presents with? How do a person with a shoulder dislocation usually present with? So he will have pain, deformity. So the simple test that you can do, that you can do rather. John Pinto, so can you see me as well, or only the PowerPoint presentation?
Sir, only your presentation is visible.
Your presentation and
But
even
then, for us, it is visible, sir, if you are there on the window on the right.
You can see me as well?
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Okay, you can see me as well. Okay.
Yes.
So what you can simply do is, the simple thing that you can do is, you can ask the person to touch his opposite shoulder with your hand like this. Now, if a person is not able to do that, take it from me, it is a shoulder dislocation. So that is actually a simple test that even we use to assess once we take the patient to an operation theater, or sometimes we do it in the emergency medicine, the casualty department itself. So if the shoulder is reduced, the simple test that we usually do before getting the X-ray done is if he or she can do this. If they can do this, the joint has popped back into position. Okay? And the shoulder appears to be flat, as I just mentioned to you. Now, say a person has got a dislocation, what would you do on the sports field? So I have seen a few people, quite a few people in fact, trying to reduce the joint back into position. And sometimes they do manage to do it successfully. Now, whenever a person dislocates his shoulder the first time, it is a pretty difficult scene to put the ball back into the socket. Or if it is a muscular person also, it is the same. Okay, but if a person has undergone recurrent dislocations in the past, it is reasonably simple to do it. But I would recommend a person against doing it. I'll explain to you as to what exactly the reason is. So what you should regularly be doing is, as shown in the picture, prepare a triangular sling or a cuff and collar sling and strap the shoulder across the body so that he or she is relatively painless, because as soon as you move the joint, it's an extremely painful condition. The people who have undergone a shoulder dislocation would probably recognize it. Never try to manipulate the limb. What is the reason for this? So basically, as I mentioned to you, a joint is a connection between two bones. So now these bones have got a covering known as a cartilage, which is very essential for it to be intact, because if it gets damaged, that joint gets permanently damaged. Now, every time you manipulate it, or every time you forcibly manipulate it, because of the friction between these two bones, the cartilage can get damaged. Now, that is not a good thing to happen. Okay, and the other problem is shoulder dislocation is usually seen in young people, never in elderly people. So fractures are usually seen in elderly people or on the shoulder joint, but a dislocation is usually in a younger person. So we wouldn't like a young person, a young athlete, to damage his joint rather permanently. So after the reduction in the hospital, it is very, very important that you tell your ward or your student that it should be immobilized continuously for 3 weeks, even for a bath or even to put his or her shirt. The limb should not be removed off the strapping. Now, this is the other important problem that I've seen among our youngsters. So once the joint is reduced back into position, it becomes relatively pain-free. So after about 2 or 3 days, due to frustration or because of over bravado, what they would do is they would usually remove the sling and just roam around like nothing has happened. Now, that is the worst thing that you can do, because trust me, even if you absolutely immobilize the joint after a reduction, there is a 20% chance that your joint can dislocate, shoulder joint I'm talking about, can dislocate again and again. Now, that is something that shouldn't happen, because if it does happen again and again, the only option that you're looking at is surgery. Now, God forbid this does happen again and again, either because of the negligence of the person or because of your bad luck. If it happens again and again, then it requires further evaluation. So further evaluation means to say that we need to do an X-ray, an MRI, a CT scan, and we are looking at a surgery. Okay, now this is a very, very common injury that I come across in my sports clinic or outpatient department, the ankle sprain. I'm sure that all of you have either had a sprain, or you would have seen a sprain, or you would have encountered this condition in your students. Now, what does a sprain mean? So the word sprain is very loosely used. So what sprain usually means is a partial or a complete tear of the ligament. So whenever we talk about a muscle tear is always clinically or medically known as a strain, not a sprain. Sprain is a tear of the ligament. Strain is a tear of the muscle. Okay. Now, why does this happen? Now, this happens because of a sudden twisting injury of the ankle when running. So a person runs fast. There's a sudden force that results in him or her stopping, and that inertia takes him forward with the ankle twisting. A complete tears can lead to instability of the ankle joint, and it can also be associated with what are known as avulsion fractures. Now, what do you mean by avulsion fractures? It is basically where the ligament goes and gets attached to a bone, a piece of that, a small chip of that bone can come off. So that is known as an avulsion fracture. Now, if you see on the picture, this is a classical picture of an ankle sprain. Okay, so the person will have swelling and pain, bruising. Bruising means you can have a blood clot under the skin. You can see at the bottom near the heel where there is a blackish discoloration. That is because there is an internal bleed. Obviously, if there is a cut, the blood would come outside. Now here there is no cut on the skin. So that is the reason the blood remains inside, and that appears to be a blackishly discolored, which is known as a bruise. And the pain increases when walking and weight bearing, and is relatively painless when a person completely is immobilized. Now, what are you supposed to do if you come across a picture like this? So the simple mnemonic that you can use to remember is what you need to do, what is known as PRICE. The first thing would be to protect the limb. That is to prevent the further injury by using an ankle support. Now, the Alcathene splint that I spoke to you about right at the beginning of my talk, it is not even expensive. It hardly costs about 120 to 150 bucks. Now, that can be used. It's simple. Just dip it in water, put it under the ankle, wrap it with a cloth or with a bandage, and you're good to go. You're good to shift the person to the nearby medical center. So rest is very important. So obviously avoid strenuous activity, bear less weight on the affected side. Ice is something that you need to keep immediately. Now, when I mean ice, again, don't rub it vigorously. Either you can use the commercially available ice packs, or you can use ice cubes wrapped with a cloth. Compression or a crepe bandage, okay, and elevate the limb in order to reduce the swelling. Now, with regards to the final treatment of the ankle sprain, what usually we do is, the general problem is we get an X-ray done. So once a person comes to a medical center, we get an X-ray done, and we say that there is no fracture, so the person is usually relieved. Okay, but trust me, if I were to have an injury to my ankle, I would rather prefer a small fracture than a sprain. The reason being, the bone-to-bone healing is almost perfect. A ligament-to-bone healing is never perfect. So even if you absolutely immobilize your limb for about 3 to 4 weeks, that is a recommended treatment, the ligament regains only about 80 to 90% of its inherent strength. If you don't immobilize the limb completely, when I talk about immobilizing the limb, ideally it should be done in a plaster cast, which usually people don't agree to, because obviously it's a little cumbersome for the next 3 to 4 weeks to remain immobilized. Okay, then what usually happens is, as I told you, even with absolute immobilization, the healing is only about 80 to 90%. So imagine if you don't immobilize, what would happen? Okay, so the person would regain only about 50 to 60% of his or her inherent strength, and that would be very catastrophic, because your ankle would twist again and again, which is not a good thing to happen. Next, you would have heard of this term known as tendonitis or tendonitis. They both mean the same. So basically, what is a tendon? A tendon is basically, so we have a muscle. So how does the muscle go and gets attached to the bone? So after the muscle, there is something known as a tendon that goes and gets attached to a bone, and that particular part, when it gets inflamed or injured, such a condition is known as tendonitis. So there are multiple tendons in the human body. So the most common tendon that can get affected is a tendon around the ankle known as a peroneal tendon, and the other tendon that is there behind the ankle is what is known as an Achilles tendon. So whenever there is an inflammation of this tendon, such a condition is known as tendonitis. So you can see this is the outer part of the foot. Okay, so you have the small bone that is drawn, known as the lateral is the medical term to say the outer part, medial is the medical term to say that it's the upper part. So the particular dotted line is where this tendon is located. Okay, so an inflammation of the tendon can result. Sometimes you might notice that there is a little bit of swelling. The athlete or your student constantly complaining of pain in that particular region because of overuse or repeated usage. That condition should ring a bell in your mind, saying that it is probably a tendonitis. So it usually occurs because of an overuse or improper technique or training and lack of an ankle support in a sports shoe. A right footwear is also very important. So all these things, when I talk about warming up, when I talk about cooling down, nutrition, proper footwear, proper gear, proper infrastructure, all these things, only if you master, then only you produce world-class athletes. If you don't concentrate on all these things, it's not like the age-old thing. It's not only about practicing hard. It is about practicing right. That is also extremely important. Now, what do you do if you come across a problem like this? So what you need to do is rest, cold compresses, limb elevation, and assess the technique of the person. So you as a physical education director and coaches, I'm sure that you undergo a course where you know how a particular sport is supposed to be played like. So that should be inculcated in these students, because students sometimes are misled or ill-informed, and you know they end up with problems like this, which wouldn't be nice. Okay, so you ensure that all your students or all your wards do stretch well, warm up well adequately before playing, and cool down properly after playing. I remember during our playing days when I was playing for my school team, John Pinto sir, you know, insisting that we do warm up, and we kind of, I mean, we used to get irritated, you know, because we were only desperate for just to go and play football. But sir was doing the right thing. So today, as a sports medicine specialist, I realize, you know, that how important it is, because I see a lot of people who have not warmed up and ending up with problems. Now, the most important topic of the entire talk is basically an injury to the ligaments of the knee. Now, this is one of the saddest thing that could occur to a professional upcoming sportsman, because it would literally hamper his progress or her progress if he or she wants to pursue sports as their career. So knee joint, I think that in your courses you do have a topic on anatomy as well. So you have heard of this term known as ligaments, anterior cruciate ligaments, meniscus, and things like that. Okay, so knee joint is a complex joint which has got multiple ligaments to make the joint stable. Now, the most commonly injured ligament is the anterior cruciate ligament. So if some of you, I'm sure, are interested in football and you know about the original Brazilian Ronaldo, I'm not talking about the present Cristiano Ronaldo, but the Ronaldo phenomenon. Okay, now, if you really go onto YouTube, or if you check a sports journal and if you type saying that what are the biggest catastrophes that occurred in the history of football, the first would be the plane crash of in the year 1958, where half of the Manchester United team was wiped off. And the second they mention is the anterior cruciate ligament injury to this particular footballer. Because they say, if not for this particular injury, he was on the way to become the greatest footballer of all time. So this is a ligament that is commonly seen. A lot of sportsmen, a famous fast bowler, pace bowler from Bangladesh, Moshraf Murtaza, he also had this problem. Okay, so it usually occurs because of an indirect injury, where there's a twisting of the knee because of the sudden pivoting. Pivoting means if one bone turns over the other. Pivoting motion on a fixed foot. So the ligament tear could either be partial, complete, or it may again be associated with an avulsion fracture. This is a picture. Okay, if you see the blue picture, that thing that you see torn in between, that is not a bone. That is what is known as the anterior cruciate ligament. So a person with an anterior cruciate ligament would present to you with an acute knee pain. He or she would tell you that I felt that something just snapped. Okay, there would be swelling of the knee, a massive swelling of the knee immediately. Now that differentiates it from another condition known as a meniscal injury, where the swelling would be seen the next day, usually. And because of the swelling, the person would be unable to bend the knee. And when he or she walks, they feel that the joint suddenly slips or gives way. And there can be a locking of the knee. That means the knee appears to be fixed in one position if there is an associated meniscal injury as well. So what do you do in such a case? So the first thing, again, rest. Avoid bending or bearing weight of the affected knee till a proper investigation like an X-ray or an MRI is done. Ice packs again over the swelling, limb elevation, a knee brace and a support. And the person should be taken to the medical specialist. So he or she would first get an X-ray and see if there is any injury, any fracture. Now, you should be aware that ligaments can never be seen on the X-ray. It can be seen only on the MRI. So we usually ask for an investigation known as an MRI scan. An MRI scan is done, and then we decide as to how to go about it. The next common problem, this is a very common problem. It is not a major problem, but a very common problem that we usually see in our sports people, what is known as shin splints. So it is again an overuse injury and is seen usually in endurance runners, that is long distance runners who run for more than 20 miles a week. Now, why does this occur? This occurs because of a pull of the muscle on the layer that is covering the bone known as the periosteum. So it's usually associated with poor footwear and running on hard surfaces like concrete roads or damar roads and on uneven surfaces. So this is the picture of the leg, where usually the person complains of the shin splint pain. It is on the inner side of the leg, not the thigh, lower down, inner side of the leg. Okay, so it is more during an increase in the workout. So usually the person typically tells you that I feel very comfortable when I'm at rest, but when I jog, when I go to my go to the field and perform the sporting activities, that is the time when I experience this particular pain. So that should give you a hint that probably it is a shin splint. Now, what do we do about this? So again, whenever there is an acute problem, rest is the most important thing. Okay, and what do we do in the long run that this doesn't occur again and again? So activity modification is very important. So they should be reduced initially in the running distance and the intensity, rehab with cross training, synthetic track should preferably use, and check on the footwear of the student. So stretching and strengthening exercises. Okay, that is also very important. Now the other common term that we usually come across is something known as tennis elbow. Okay, so this usually what occurs is the person usually complains of pain in this particular region. It was first seen in people who were playing tennis, and that is how the name came as tennis elbow. It's not that only a person who plays tennis has to have this problem. It can be seen even in housewives or homemakers or coolie workers. Anybody basically who does a particular movement which puts extra load on the elbow can end up with this problem. So it is, however, commonly seen in people participating in racket sports. Tennis is not that popular in Mangalore. I usually see a lot of people who play badminton, shuttle badminton, coming with this particular problem. Now, why does this occur? It occurs due to repetitive pull of the muscle that originate on a bony prominence known as a lateral epicondyle. Now, if you keep your elbow like this, can you see my elbow? Hello?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We can see. Yes.
Can you see my elbow? Okay. So this is the inner part of the elbow. This is the outer part of the elbow. Okay. Whenever there is pain on this, the inner part of the elbow, that condition is known as golfer's elbow. Whenever there is pain in the outer part of the elbow, that condition is known as a tennis elbow. Now, why does this occur? Now, we have muscles over the backside of the forearm, known as the extensor muscles. Now, these muscles go and get attached to this particular point, known as the lateral epicondyle. Okay, so you can see in this particular picture, the lateral epicondyle. Now, the action of these muscles is basically to do this particular movement of the wrist. That is when you hit a backhand, when you're playing tennis or table tennis or badminton, when you hit a backhand, these muscles come into the picture. Now, if a person has got a faulty technique of his backhand stroke, or especially people who are doing this particular, that is rotatory movements, they are usually prone for this particular problem. Okay, so swelling can sometimes be present in this particular area. Now, why does this occur? Now, there are questions like, doctor, there are a lot of coolie workers who do a lot of heavier activity than we do. How come they don't have this problem? All I can tell you is, in simple terms, if you give more load to that particular part of your body, more than what it can handle, that is when you end up with this problem called as tennis elbow. Just like how every human being is different, the ability of every person to handle the amount of load that is put on them is different. So if you cross that particular limit, you end up with this problem. So this is how we usually test if a person has got tennis elbow or no. So we basically press that particular point and ask the person to forcibly lift his wrist like this, not downwards, upwards like this. So they develop a typical shooting pain in this particular area. So that problem is known as tennis elbow. Now, what do we do in a person with tennis? Now, tennis and golfer's elbow is the same. So tennis elbow, when the problem is on the outside and the problem is with this muscle, golfer's elbow, when the problem is on the inside and the problem is with this muscle. So what do we do in such a case? The most important thing, just like how you have an external wound, you wouldn't like to pick on it. Obviously, it's not going to heal. This is like an internal wound. So rest is the most important thing. After that, we do activity modification, physiotherapy like ultrasound massage, stretching and strengthening, TheraBand strengthening exercises. And in an acute condition, we can use a tennis elbow brace. Now, this is another common condition that you people can usually come across, that is muscle cramps. So what usually occurs here? So usually what does happen here is there's a sudden and painful contraction of the muscle, usually the lower limb, that does not relax. Now, why does this occur? This usually occurs because of inadequate stretching and warming up prior to your physical activity. So once you warm up, the amount of blood circulation to that particular region increases. Now, this results in limiting, it can still occur if you're unlucky, but it definitely limits the chances of you developing an injury. So poor hydration is the other reason. Okay, so you have to drink adequate amount of fluids, electrolytes, very important. So in a place like Mangalore where humidity is very high, we might have noticed that muscle cramps are quite high. That is because we lose a lot of salt from our body because we sweat. It doesn't happen in places like Bangalore. So the person typically says that he or she has got pain in the muscle, and when touching that muscle, it's usually a little hard or taut to touch, and it can be painful as well. Now, what do we do in order to reduce the chance of these muscle cramps or tears from occurring? So we need to do warming up. So we can do things like hamstring stretch, calf stretch, and quadricep stretch. So you can see in the picture, how do we do a calf stretch? So basically we need to keep our foot flat on the floor, perpendicular to the wall, keep our back as straight as possible and move forward so that particular muscle stretches. Quadriceps is again, we try to bend the knee. So the quadriceps are present in the front part of the thigh. So we try to bend the knee. So that again, so these things need to be done in repetitions. This is easily available nowadays on YouTube or in proper literature on Google as well. So hamstring stretch is the other exercise that we are supposed to do in order to reduce the chance of a muscle strain or a cramp. No, muscle strain, as I told you, sprain is basically a tear of the ligament. Strain is basically a tear of the muscle. So this usually occurs because of sudden overstretching of a tear or a muscle. So hamstrings and quadriceps, that they are basically the thigh muscles, are at increased risk, especially the hamstrings. So Zahir Khan was known to have repeated hamstring tears during his peak. So track and field athletes, football players are commonly affected. So again, inadequate stretching and warming up is the most common reason for this. Next thing would be the muscle pull. So again, the person, see this person that you see on the right hand side has got a typical hamstring strain or a muscle pull of the hamstring. So as I mentioned, hamstring comes on the back side of the thigh. Okay, so whenever a person has got a sudden, you can be rest assured, the typical history is a person is accelerating and he or she suddenly catches the backside of the thigh. That is where you can say that this is basically a hamstring pull, hamstring tear, or a hamstring strain. So what do we do in case something like that happens? Again, rest and cold compresses is most important. So crib bandage and compression is very important. Elevate the limb and rush the person to the hospital. Now, I would like to touch on this particular topic known as pain medication. So I usually, not only the sportsmen, generally the patients that I do come across, they usually have this fear about taking painkillers. Okay, there are two things that I would like to tell you. Okay, first of all, painkiller was invented by man to relieve someone of his or her pain, not to kill somebody or not to damage somebody's kidney. Okay. Second thing is, you need to understand that your doctors are human beings. So I have patients coming to me saying that, doctor, I've got this problem, but I don't want any medications. What am I or any doctor supposed to do? Okay. So it is very important that painkiller, you need to understand there are different type of painkillers. You are partially right in the sense that some painkillers can cause ulcers, some painkillers can cause the damage to the kidney, but there are types of painkillers that do not damage the kidney as well, which can be taken in the long run. The stronger painkillers which can damage the kidney can also be taken for a short period of time relatively safely. So you need to understand that when your physician does give you painkillers, it is not in an intention to harm you. Or you not having a painkiller or an anti-inflammatory drug is not a brave thing to do. It is actually a foolish thing to do, but it needs to be done under guidance. That is the most important thing. Okay, so painkillers not only relieve you of your pain, it also has got what are known as anti-inflammatory properties, which reduces the internal swelling. Okay, so that is also very important for the healing of a particular area. So the most important thing is obviously we rule out the drug allergies and definitely avoid recommending painkiller without your doctor's consultation. Now, if you have to give painkillers to your ward or student, stick to simpler painkillers like paracetamol. So if you have to go to a higher painkiller like diclofenac or brufen, ibuprofen and things like that, usually it is better under medical guidance. Now, okay, I have told you all the things about what are the common injuries that a sports person can have and what are the things that can be done. But obviously you and me would prefer that this never happens. So what do we do to prevent the injury? So it is very important to have a strict warm-up regime before any sporting activity for all your students. Now, warming up is basically in 3 phases. First one is known as general movement, stretching, and the third one would be sport-specific movement. It is very important. Now, general movement would be the same for all kinds of sporting activities, be it football, cricket, hockey, basketball, volleyball, whatever may be. Okay, so basically what you do there is, it basically involves simple jogging. Okay, then some some amount of running and stretching exercises, not stationary stretching exercises, running and like swinging of the lower limbs, front, sideways, backwards. All these things are there on the internet, and I'm sure in your courses as well. Okay, the next thing would be stretching, stationary stretching. So you basically stretch your hamstrings well, your calves well, the picture that I put initially, your quadriceps well, and if it is a racket sport, your upper body, your arm, your forearm, wrist, stretching exercises. That is very important. And the third thing is sports-specific movements. Now, when I meant sports-specific movements, obviously, increasing the flexibility of the shoulder joint would be, you would concentrate more on that if you're playing a racket sport more than say something like football. So if in case of football, you would concentrate more on mobility of the knee and the ankle. So that is what you mean by sports-specific warming up exercises. So stretching is an absolute requirement. Focus on muscle conditioning exercises. And cooling down exercises after the workout is absolutely important. In addition to that, adequately hydrate your students. Okay, make sure that they have the right diet. Okay, and these things also go a long way in preventing the injury. Thank you. So I've tried to keep my talk as simple as possible, and I would be open to take up any questions that you have.
Okay, any questions from audience? Any question from the participants? Okay, Dr. Ramchandra? Dr. Ramchandra? Dr. Ramchandra is there? Yeah. Anyhow, no more questions, I think. Dr. Vivian?
I
Sir,
can
there is a question in the chat box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, sir, is jogging or walking continuously for a long time lead to injuries? It's from Azad Fitness Club. Hi. So the basic thing is, no, definitely no. So, but what is most important is you need to understand your body and to what extent you can push it. For example, now in my case, it did happen. So as I told you, I used to play a lot initially. Then for about 10 years, I stopped completely into sporting activities, and suddenly I started playing. I ended up with a few sporting injuries. So if you are a regular jogger, or if you are regularly into sporting exercises, then it's not an issue at all. But it is very important that if you're starting after a long period of time, you gradually build on the workload. So for the first, say, 4 days, jog for about 15 minutes, then gradually increase it to 25 minutes. So don't, just because you used to run about a kilometer in the past, if there's a significant gap, don't suddenly rush yourself. So that is what is most important. Okay, the next question is from Mr. Uday Kumar HV. Convey about hip joint and lower back injury. Now, hip joint is usually not a commonly seen injury, okay, regularly. So that is the reason I didn't cover it in my topic. But there can be advanced injuries, what are known as labral injuries and things like that. Now, unfortunately, hip joint injuries basically are career-threatening injuries, sports career-threatening injuries. A person with a hip joint injury usually results in a permanent cessation of his sporting activity. So if you follow tennis, Andy Murray from England had the same problem. Low back injury is not a sports-specific injury. It can occur in any human being. So again, you would do a good thing by warming up and stretching yourself well, and you can reduce the incidence of this particular problem. Immediate first aid for a calf muscle cramp. Okay, I think I'm getting a lot of questions. I'm not able to follow it. So calf muscle cramp. So calf muscle cramp, what you can first do is you can give alternate hot and cold fermentation, what is known as a contrast bath. Okay, about 10 minutes of ice pack application, 5 minutes of hot fermentation. This would increase the blood circulation of that particular area, and it is very important that you replenish your body fluids. So calf muscle cramps are usually because of dehydration and loss of salt from your body. One doctor says humans should not run. What is your opinion? I mean, don't follow what one doctor says. Most doctors do say that it is okay to run, so it should not be a problem. Is there a possibility to get golfers and tennis elbow pain at the same time? Definitely. Mr. Arun D'Souza. So I have seen a lot of cases who have this problem, especially people with racket sports. You can get golfer's elbow and tennis elbow at the same time. Yeah, I think we are done with the questions, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Vivian. Now I request Dr. Ramchandra to conclude the session. Dr. Ramchandra.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you, sir, for giving a valuable insight on sports injuries and update.
Yeah,
It's a wonderful information given for us. We are all working in the field of sports. One of the time we used to get this kind of information inside the field. So very good information to us. Thank you so much on behalf of all the participants and on behalf of the GFGC Government First Grade College Kavur also. Now the session is open for any questions. If you have any questions, you can share with us, or you can write in the chat box also. Sir, one question I have seen that the immediate first aid for the calf muscle is to explain. Immediate first aid for the calf muscle in the field.
Yeah, I went through those questions and I did mention. Okay,
Doctor.
Yeah. So what you usually do is basically the first thing, the mistake that a person can do. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
audible, sir.
Yeah. So the mistake that people usually do is, as soon as a person has got cramps, they just go and start rubbing it vigorously. That is something that you should not do to begin with. Okay, so it is very important that the person first lies down, takes rest, stops his sporting activity, gentle stretching of the calf. That is very important. Okay, and what you can do is apply ice and hot fermentation on an alternate basis. That is what is known as a contrast bath. Replenish the fluids. It is very important that you take fluids. So water is not enough. So it is not only that the loss of water is responsible for the cramps. So loss of electrolytes. What do you mean by electrolytes? Basically salt in the body. So it is very important that you replenish that as well. So simple things like ORS that we usually give to people with loose stools, that can be given, or lime juice can be given with a little bit of salt. Any citrus juice can be given, or commercially available Glucon-D can be given. So something like that can also be given. So this is the basic first aid thing that you can do. And then obviously you need to do something that this doesn't happen again and again, which is a different topic altogether. Hello.
Dr. Vivian, sometimes, during sports injuries on the field, at the time of action.
Hello, Mr. Manoj. How are you?
We see this magic spray coming out and, for immediate relief, do that. Is it effective?
Hello, Mr. Manoj. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, doctor. I hope you are doing well. Yes.
Yeah. I did recognize you. Yeah. So the thing is, see what this does. See, we give a lot of gel, even to people like our regular patients who don't play. A lot of people are very fascinated about these gels and sprays and things like that. You need to understand that there are two aspects of treatment. Okay, one thing is basically any condition for that matter is to cure that particular ailment, and second thing is to give symptomatic relief. Okay, both go hand in hand. So if you are my patient and I tell you, Mr. Manoj, I'll cure this problem, but pain will continue. Are you going to accept that? No, isn't it?
Yes.
So you want symptomatic relief along with the curative problem, curing the problem as well. So what these magic sprays and what these gels do is basically they create a local area of warmth. So it is the same like giving hot fermentation. Okay. Now, how do we realize that a particular part of the body is paining? It is because one particular nerve, so you hit somewhere, one particular nerve tells the brain that, okay, that part is paining. What do you do with these gels and all that is you basically block that nerve from transmitting the pain impulse and transfer the heat impulse.
Okay.
So the person does not realize the pain. It is not that it cures the particular problem. So it buys you a few minutes. So if you're in the middle of a sporting field, if you have a mild injury, what this spray does is it numbs you. So once it numbs you, you can probably continue playing and finish the rest 10 or 15 minutes, whatever is left. But it doesn't cure the problem. So it is not a solution, but it provides you symptomatic relief.
Thank you, doctor.
Good evening, doctor.
Good evening.
This is Philip, doctor. Philip.
Sir, I cannot see you on the screen, sir.
Yeah, I'm seeing. Can you see me, sir?
Yes, Mr. Philip. Mr. Philip Sanjay. Please tell me, sir.
Sir, sorry to ask you this question because I'm a physical director for Chrysalis High Kadagudi branch. Okay.
Okay.
So most of the athletes in the school, they don't know the correct information in sports activities, and they
Okay.
get injured.
Okay.
They tell, emphasize, sir, my butt muscle is gone, my butt muscle is catch. So it is the gluteus maximum. Okay, the
Yes.
glute muscle is connected to your hamstring muscle. So
Yes.
what is my question is, most of the athletes, I am from the Karnataka State Athletic Association as official. Some of the
Okay.
athletes, they get this sudden of injury in middle of the event. And what is the protocol to be followed, sir?
You're talking about how to prevent it, or if it does occur, what to happen?
How to prevent it, sir?
Prevent it. Okay. So basically, this falls under the broad category of muscle cramps and muscle strain that I just mentioned. So the way to protect it, see now, certain people, just like how I mentioned, every human being is different. Some people have got this tendency or preponderance to have these muscles tears or strains more than the other. Hamstring is the most common area, followed by the glutes that you just mentioned, the gluteus maximus. Okay. So the most important thing is to maintain adequate hydration, adequate nutrition. That is very important. Secondly, there is something known as muscle conditioning exercises, which they need to be taught. Apart from that, it is very important to warm up, slowly build on the amount of load that you put on those muscles. Okay, so then we can minimize the chance of these things occurring. Now, the basic mistake that people usually do is when they have an injury, they rush back to their sporting activities because obviously we are all desperate. I also used to do it. Okay, but it's very important that we give adequate time for that muscle to heal. Because the problem is whenever there is an external wound, whenever somebody bleeds, everybody is like, okay, something is wrong with me, I need to take rest. Whenever somebody doesn't see something, he or she thinks that everything is fine. It is not like that. So just like how we need to give time for an external injury to heal, we need to give time to an internal injury also to heal so that these things don't occur again and again. But it is very important. So as I told you, sir, there are 3 levels. First thing is you need to make sure that your students and your athletes do what is known as general conditioning exercises or general movement exercises. Second is stationary stretching, followed by sports-specific movements. So a person playing badminton, one particular sport, so concentrate more on the elbow, on the wrist, on the shoulder. Person or more into running activities, concentrate on the lower limb a little bit more. So all these things, I mean, it is difficult for me to cover it in 5 minutes, but that is what you concentrate. But the basic, in a nutshell, the basic problem is people, you see 90% of the cases, people don't warm up properly, don't cool down properly, or if they are injured, they don't give sufficient time for it to heal. That is why they come with this problem again and again.
Thank you so much, doctor. God bless you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Is there any question from the participating side?
I have a Can I come in?
Yeah.
Hello?
Sir,
Yes,
sir,
yes. Yeah, yeah.
sir, can we give the weight training to the high school students, that is which age between 14 to 16 years? Is it good to give the weight training during the sports training? Is it influence on their growth of height?
No. That is actually a misconception. Okay, that is actually a misconception. Even I used to hear when growing up. In fact, my mother used to tell that I should become tall, and so I used to do this hanging on the monkey bars, but I ended up being only 5'8", despite doing that thing. That is not so. Your height is basically determined mainly by your genetics. Okay, height is determined mainly by your genetics. But it's very important that you do a structured weight training. Okay, so just because you're carrying a little bit of weights doesn't mean that you are going to be short. Okay, but there is a scientific way of doing it. It is very important that weight training is different from endurance training. So you need to strike a right balance between both these things and what kind of a sporting activity the person is into. Okay, but this misconception that as soon as you hang yourself onto a monkey bar, you'll become tall, and as soon as you carry a little bit of weights, you'll become short. That is not true. That is not true. but 8 would be a little too early to start somebody on weight training. But maybe 12 to 14. But nowadays, everybody wants their kid to become Tendulkar. They want to start at the age of 3. That is the present scenario. If you recently saw Rahul Dravid's interview, he was also discouraging this thing. There are a lot of children, parents nowadays, push their kids into sports forcibly that they have to become professional sports people at a very young age. It is the Chinese model. China, the people usually do that. But I think the most important thing is sports is for you to enjoy. If you have the talent, if luck is on your side, you achieve great feats, well and good. But we should not push people into anything, including sports.
Okay, thanks, sir. Thank you.
Sir, I got one question.
Yes, sir.
How effective is this contrast bar as part of rehabilitation process of injury rehabilitation in athletes?
I didn't get it. How I didn't get your question. Could you repeat it, please?
Yeah. How effective is this contrast bar
Okay.
as part of sports injury rehabilitation?
See, usually what we usually suggest is before the playing the particular sport, okay, we usually ask the people to do their warming up exercises. So after that, cooling down is also very important. Okay. So usually what we suggest the athletes to do is, now, of course, with this pandemic, it is not possible. Swimming would be the best thing. That's why you see a lot of these sports people, as soon as they finish their match, they usually go to the pool. Okay. So you need to allow something to cool down as well. It is something equivalent to a car engine. Okay. Once it's overheated, you need to make sure that it cools down as well. So once you do that, now what does contrast bath do? So whenever you give hot fermentation, the blood circulation, the blood vessels to that particular muscle opens up. So there is more blood that goes to that particular area. Okay. Now there are when a person, after having undergone some sporting activity, there are a lot of metabolites. That means metabolism that take place in the body that get accumulated in a particular area. Once we give this contrast bath, we are trying to basically, I don't know if this is a little technical, obviously, it tries to wash away these metabolites. So once these metabolites are washed off, the chances for your injury minimizes that much. So that is the reason why usually we ask the person to do this contrast bath, warming up and cooling down.
Thank you, sir.
You're most welcome.
Yeah.
Is there any questions? Yes, sir. I'm waiting for the participant. If you have any, let them ask the questions. If there is no question, then we'll go ahead.
The funny thing, Miss Nidal Ahmad Sheikh, asked the same question. I wish it was true. If that was the case, I would have been as tall as John Pinto, sir. Sir, John Pinto, sir, did you do that? Is that the reason that you are 6+?
No.
Sir?
Okay, Dr. Ramchandra, you just
I hope looks like we have answered all participants' questions.
I have one more, sir, with your kind permission, please.
Okay, go ahead, sir. Please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, sir. This is Dr. I. Makubai,
Yes,
Honorable
sir,
General Secretary from Karnataka University, Dharwad. First, let me congratulate the host and a special thanks to the resource person.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks for your kind words.
Yes. Sir, my query is that after the lockdown period, do you think the injuries arena will be extended as the sports person who has been in rest? I am talking about the basic sports person for intercollegiate, for our level I am talking about. Do you think if it clicks to the athletes' concern, what are the precautions to be taken care of?
It's a very, very good question. There is absolutely no doubt that the person having sat inside for about a year and a half, suddenly they get into their sporting activities, the chances of injuries are a little more. Now, I mean, I am not pursuing intercollegiate sports or university anymore. But I do play on a regular basis. I used to play on a regular basis every evening for an hour. I used to play shuttle badminton, and I play reasonably well. So as of now, that is not possible. So what I do now is to keep myself fit. I make sure that I do brisk walking every day for an hour. Okay, so what I would recommend is you can tell your students and your athletes to engage in some physical activity within the COVID protocol, obviously. Okay, so that they keep their body flexible, because skill is not going to disappear. Skill will always be there. Okay, so with a little bit of practice, you can gain back your skill. You can gain back your form or your skill. Not an issue. It is the stamina. It is the conditioning of the body that does suffer. So I think simple things like walking, jogging within their premises, stretching exercises, and free exercise. I'm not a big fan of weight training. I always prefer free chain exercises more than weight training. So something like that would be excellent. So you can encourage your students to do that. Keep themselves as fit as possible. Of course, there is no replacement for playing regularly, but this is the current unprecedented situation. We can't do anything about it. So that is the best that you can advise your students. And once they come back,
Thank you very much for keeping me right. I am doing it regularly for my students, feeding them the yogas and physical fitness classes. Thank you very much.
So once they come back, sir, what you can do is you can start slowly initially. God alone knows when this pandemic is going to come to an end. That is a different question. Okay, once they come, also you can slowly start building on their thing. So never go back to the same workload that they had before. Okay, slowly you can build on that.
Gradation will be good.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, then you can definitely minimize the chances of injury.
Yeah, sir. So one more query. The stretching before warming up is preferable or not in all good conditions?
First warming up, jogging, then stretching, then sport specific exercises. Always in that direction, that order.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I hope this answer for your questions, Makubai sir. Is there any questions?
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Any more questions?
John Peter, sir, with your permission, you can give them my email address. If they want to email something, any query, they can go ahead with that. Not an issue at all.
Yes.
Maybe once in 2 days or once in 3 days, when I check my email, I can get back to them.
Right. That I will share in the group.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay. I hope there is no questions from the participant side. Doctor, is there anything else you'd like to mention? Doctor, is there anything else you like to mention before wrap up?
No, all I would like to say is I'm extremely grateful to John Pinto sir for having given me this opportunity. Sir has always been my mentor and one of my favorite teachers. My brother is also here only, so he was also a student. So when the camera was off, I actually called him and asked him to have a look at sir. So we both are extremely grateful for what sir has done to us. Okay, and it was because of his inspiration that I got into this sports this thing, and I can never forget what he had done for me when I was a student. Thank you, sir, and thanks for this opportunity today as well. And I've had a very interesting discussion with you people. Okay, I always tell it to everybody that the people I respect the most in this life is people who are into the sporting arena, even more than the doctors. Okay, even more than the doctors, because sports people are always the most special people. There is no doubt about it. But it is a sad state in our country that we don't get people don't get their due who are into the sporting field. So when I mentioned non-modifiable factors, I think the other non-modifiable factor in our country is politicians. Okay, so that is the other problem. So unless we actually encourage our athletes, we put in enough of money and infrastructure into the sporting field, we are not going to improve. I hope I don't see it happening in our lifetime, but maybe in the future, we are at least in the right direction. Other than cricket, other sportsmen are also coming up now. Like badminton, Sindhu is doing very well. Saina did very well. Wrestling, your shooting and things like that. So hopefully someday, the effort that people like you put in will work wonders for our country. Thanks a lot.
Next, Dr. Ramchandra.
Okay, sir. Thank you so once again. Thank you so much for your wonderful and valuable suggestions and guidance and information in this national webinar organized by Government First Grade College, Kavuru, Mangalore. Now I request Dr. John Pinto sir to proceed for the next.
Thank you, Dr. Ramchandra, for your very good moderating. And on
Thank you, sir.
the organizing side, I would like to thank Dr. Vivian, because is the good information he has given regarding sports injuries. And I'm very proud to say he was my student when he was in high school. So thank you very much, Vivian, and thank you all the participants. Now I request Professor Manoj Lewis to propose the word of thanks.
A very good evening to all. It is said, listening to an expert for an hour is worth reading a book for a month. We at GFGC Kavur are very happy to acknowledge the rich resources and information on sports injuries shared by Dr. Vivian D. Almeida, Associate Professor, Department of Orthopedics at Father Muller's Medical College Hospital. Thank you, Doctor, for your meaningful and enlightened presentation. Thank you very much. You know, when you mentioned about an injury called tennis elbow, this is in lighter vein, you know, late 90s and early 2000, Tendulkar had a tennis elbow, and everyone was wondering that it's wrong. We wanted even that injury to be named after Tendulkar. It should have been a Tendulkar elbow or a cricket elbow, not a tennis elbow. That was the craze which you did mention in your presentation. So thank you very much, Doctor. It was really worth, every second that we heard from you, the kind of injuries. It was like a science class for all of us, especially for me, though I'm not a physical director right now. And also today's newspaper says that the Youth and Sports Minister, Kiran Rijiju, has announced what is called as Central Sports Injuries Management, a fund, and also taking care of people who represent, athletes who represent India, no matter across different sports, taking care. The government is going to take care of their injuries. I hope it bears fruit. That is the only wish that we have, because there are a lot of things promised, but the groundwork really, nothing happens on the ground. So thank you very much, Doctor, once again, for your wonderful presentation. Also, on behalf of our college, I express my profound gratitude to Dr. Ramachandra K., Physical Education Director at Government First Grade College, Vittal, for moderating this session. Thank you, Dr. Ramachandra, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yes. A word of gratitude to our dear principal, Dr. Shivrama P., for his unstinted support and guidance. Thank you, sir, and I wish and I hope that you continue to support us. Maybe we can bring in a lot of such events and take the name of our college higher. Webinars cannot reach a logical end if not for its participants. A big thank you to all the participants for your involvement, your energy, and especially, the question and answer part, because some webinars come to a close as soon as the resource person has finished. But I believe that question answer session after this particular talk from the resource person, that itself was another session, very resourceful session, I would say. So thank you, dear participants. Thank you very much. Hope you all, continue to be a part of webinars that we organize at our college. Also, I would like to acknowledge my words of appreciation to Dr. John Pinto, the organizing secretary of this webinar, and the convener, Professor Kuncheria K. Thank you, sirs. Also, I appreciate the presence of my dear colleagues for this webinar. Thank you all. Once again, a heartfelt thanks to all who have made this webinar possible. Have a beautiful evening. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. With this, thank you also, sir. With this, thank you for participating in today's webinar. We hope to see you again the next time. Take care and stay safe. Thank you, and all.
Thank you very much. To all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Pinto sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And the participant, the e-certificate will be sent to the persons who will fill the feedback forms immediately after the webinar. We have already announced in the beginning. So kindly fill the feedback forms immediately.
So feedback forms,
Okay.
sir. Can we get a link?
Yeah, we'll give you.
In a chat box or how, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is not in a chat box. That's what.
Yeah, that is in chat
No.
box.
No, sir, it is not there.
We will send you, sir. Send you. Wait,
It
one
is,
minute.
it is, yeah, I just see that. That is in chat box.
In group also we will send. In group also, we'll send the link.